You know that feeling, right? You get this amazing idea for an app, and then it just sits there in your notes for months. Because actually building it feels like this huge, impossible mountain to climb. Well, today we're going to look at a tool that claims to just demolish that mountain. It's called Rocket.New, and the promise is kind of crazy. Describe your app in one sentence, and it builds it, just like that. And there it is, right on the screen. The core promise. The keywords here? Seconds and one sentence. And let's be super clear, we're not talking about a simple wireframe or some static picture you hand off to a developer. No, the claim is this thing spits out a complete working product. That's a huge claim, right? So yeah, let's dig in and see if it holds up. So the creators call it a vibe solutioning tool. Okay, I know that sounds a little bit like marketing speak, right? But hang on, because the vibe part is actually really important. It means you don't have to get bogged down in all the technical details. You just describe the feeling, the purpose, the vibe of what you're trying to build. And the AI is supposed to handle all the boring stuff. The databases, the UI, all that tedious setup that can take days. So who is this actually for? Well, it seems like it's for pretty much everyone with an idea. You've got your solopreneurs, right? The people with a wild idea they want to test out right now without writing a single line of code. But it's also for bigger teams. Imagine being a product manager who needs a new internal tool, or an agency that wants to show a client a real working app instead of just a PowerPoint slide. It's all about collapsing that timeline between, hey, I have an idea, and here's the thing you can actually use. Okay, so all that theory is cool, but talk is cheap, right? Seeing is believing, so let's put this thing to the test. We're going to do something super common. Build a landing page, totally from scratch, and we're going to follow the whole journey, from the very first sentence we type all the way to a finished design. All right, so here is the exact instruction that was fed into the machine. And this is a really great example of how to prompt in AI well. See, it's not just make me a web page. It's super specific. It gives the brand name, the AI grid. It even says to use a transparent logo and specifies the colors, dark black with purple accents. It's just like talking to any AI, really. The better your instructions, the better the result you're going to get. And this is the part that just blows my mind. The time it took from typing that sentence to getting back a complete professionally designed landing page, 3 to 4 minutes. Seriously. Let that sink in for a second. 3 to 4 minutes. We're not talking about a first draft here. This is the finished thing. A process that would normally take a designer and a developer hours, maybe even days, is done in the time it takes to make a cup of coffee. But look, a first draft is never the final draft, right? The real magic of any creative tool is in the editing. How easy is it to tweak things? What happens when you change your mind? Do you have to start all over again? Let's find out how this thing handles making changes. Okay, and this is where it starts to feel like actual magic. The page the AI made was cool, but it had a bunch of different sections. For a simple email sign-up page, you want it to be super focused. So look at the command used to change it. It's not code. It's just English. Exactly what you'd say to a person. Hey, remove every section other than the first bit. And boom, the result was instant. The AI understood the command, stripped out all the extra stuff, and just left this clean, simple design. This is so important because it means you can make these huge changes without getting lost in some complicated menu. It lets you stay in that creative zone. And this points to something really smart about how this tool is designed. You basically get 2 ways to edit. For the big stuff, the broad strokes, you just talk to the AI in plain English. But for those times when you're a perfectionist and you need to nudge a button 2 pixels to the left or get that shade of purple just right, well, there's a traditional, detailed editor for that too. So you get the best of both worlds, speed and precision. Okay, so a landing page, that's impressive for sure, but what about a real app? Something with a backend, user accounts, data coming in from other places. To really see if this is more than just a cool toy, we gotta throw something more complex at it. So let's check out a fully functional news aggregator app. Okay, now check out the feature list on this thing. This is where it gets really serious. You've got user logins, right? That's handled by a service called Superbase, so no building your own database from scratch. It's pulling in live news feeds from places like Hacker News and The Verge. And, this is my favorite part, it uses Google's Gemini AI to automatically write summaries of the articles. This is not just a web page, folks. This is a complex, living, breathing web application. So, how in the world did this get built? Well, you can see the steps here, but it's probably better to think of it less like a checklist and more like a conversation. The builders started by just describing the 3 main screens they wanted. Then they were like, okay, AI, now set up the user accounts. Then, okay, now connect to these news feeds. And finally, hey, can you add a button that summarizes articles using AI? Each step was just another simple English request, building up this complex app layer by layer without a single line of code. You know, when you see something like this in action, you kind of have to take a step back and think about the bigger picture. I mean, if you can build both a simple landing page and a complex app this fast, what does that even mean for the future of making software? It feels like the entire process, from that first little spark of an idea to a real product, is just being completely turned on its head. And this is the key detail that separates this from being just a fancy prototyping tool. It's meant to be production grade. What does that mean? It means all the really hard stuff, like setting up payments with Stripe, is already handled for you. You don't get stuck in that development hell where the last 10% of the work takes 90% of the time. You can share a live link with your team instantly, get feedback, and then when you're ready, boom, push it live to your own custom domain. It's designed to bridge that final, painful gap that kills so many great ideas. So that leaves us with one last really powerful question. Forever, really, the biggest thing standing between a great idea and a finished product wasn't a lack of creativity. It was the technical skill to code it, or having the money to pay someone who could. But if that wall is really starting to crumble, if your idea can literally become a real working app in a matter of minutes, the only question left is, what are you going to build?